Hello, and welcome back to the Killing Yourself in 3 Days podcast. This is the companion podcast for anyone planning on killing themselves in 3 days. Good news for all of our suicidality heads. We're having our first and I guess last live event for the podcast in a few days. We're going to do a meetup at Pan Pacific Park, and we're all going to kill ourselves. There's a lot of guys there that like to play basketball. Been there before. They play hard, they play fast, they're serious, they really go for it. And we're going to do a really cool thing. We are going to play basketball with them with loaded handguns, just tuxedo revolvers in our basketball shorts. And if we lose the game, we will kill ourselves. Hopefully, for comedy's sake, we as a team win a game, then get to play the next team. But the second we lose, we're going to take out those handguns and we're going to shoot ourselves. So once again, that is going to be July 22nd, 2 p.m. at Pan Pacific Park in Los Angeles, California. It's right next to the Grove. They do have a pretty big parking lot. You should be able to find parking in the lot for free. Worst comes to worst, you can't find parking, maybe street parking across the street, or you can park in the Grove's pay-to-park lot. Either way, you could park in the red zone because the plan is you're not walking out. So take the bus even, park your car in the middle of the 101, whatever you would like to do, just get that going. Going to be Pan Pacific Park, 3 p.m., July 22nd. Going to be a group suicide after some games of pickup basketball. Come out. You don't have to be good at basketball, but if you want to come out and you want to be a part of it, come out and do it. We are going to have Dwayne Wade in person sponsoring the event as well. He is not going to kill himself, but he really likes the cause for some reason. And really wants to be there. So he's going to be there. He might do some commentating on the games, trying to see if he would play with us, but he says he doesn't like to play pickup a lot because he gets fouled a lot, obviously, because he's Dwayne Wade, so people really want to have the street cred of, I beat Dwayne Wade in a pickup game. So that's definitely going to be something that we're doing. Before then, we are going to have a live meetup at American Gun Company off of Magnolia in Burbank, California, just to buy the guns. But if you just want to bring your own, you don't have to have the same gun as everybody else. That'll be fine. So show up, show out. It's going to be a good day. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really fun time. I'm excited for everybody to come out and kill ourselves all together as a group. That's a joke. That's a joke. That's not going to happen. Sorry if I got anybody's hopes up. We are not going to be doing that. Boy, would we like to, though. I think anybody who's a fan of this podcast would, probably love to, end their life violently and abruptly with a handgun. And if you're listening to this and you don't want to kill yourself, I am surprised that you listen. I don't know if I have much marketability to people who really love life. I don't think that this podcast or my stand-up or any sketch I've ever made is really entertaining to anybody that is living a full, fulfilled life, which is bad because that's still most people in the world. That's something you forget when you're sort of a depressive type like me, is you forget most people walk around and they're not amped, but they're fine. Most people walk around and they go to work and, they're not happy about going to work, but they don't think it means they should kill themselves. To those people I say huzzah. To those people I say I hope the IPAs taste good. To those people I say give me money. To those people, I say, put a barrel in your mouth, see how it feels. I don't know. It's this podcast is the first thing I've done today, besides making breakfast. I've been in a state where I make breakfast, drink a full cup of coffee, and then get back in bed. Terrible way to live life. Really depressing, unfulfilling, makes you feel bad about yourself. Something about the bed, I go back. I don't have room for it, but I think for my own mental health, I should get a couch. Because a couch is not as serious as a desk, but it's not as let's go to sleep as a bed. It could be a good middle ground for me for when I'm like, listen, I don't feel good, I don't want to do much, but I'm not going to get back in bed. I'll sit on the couch and maybe take some time to think about what the next move is. I don't know. There's a lot of time in the day, and I wish people would have told me that before, because I wake up and there's so much time and there's so much stuff to do, but I don't do it. I have to call the doctor. I have too many weird moles on my skin that I think are skin cancer, and I might be slowly dying of skin cancer, and that's why I'm so tired all the time. And I don't know how I would definitely feel bad, because I don't really want to die. Not that way. But I wonder if I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, I have these weird moles. And he's like, okay, let's check them out. And then he checks them out and he's like, oh yeah, no, you are riddled with cancer. I honestly don't know if there's much we can do for you. I honestly wonder if there's a part of me that would be like, all right, well, that really takes the pressure off. You know what I mean? Because if you're told you have 4 months to live, you're not going to worry about getting into the Just for Laughs comedy festival. That kind of goes out the window, you know what I mean? I think my stand-up would be way better. I would go on stage and people would be like, you can't say that. And I'd be like, well, tell me that in 4 months. And they go, what does that mean? And then 4 months later, it's like, Cooper Lyden has died, Imagine like there would be news about it. There would not. There might be a Facebook post, I think. I might get an independent Facebook post. Maybe somebody would say, this guy died, and then I think 4 to 7 other people would maybe throw a sad face reaction on it, and that would be a life well lived. I think that would be up to my potential. I think that's what the time in the day makes me feel like, is I have so much time during the day. Because I work at night, and if I'm not working, even what I'm going to do is probably going to happen at night, because it's probably just stand-up stuff. So there's so much time during the day, and people always talk about living up to your potential. And sometimes I feel like the amount of time during the day shows me that this could be my potential. This studio apartment that I can barely afford could possibly be the tip of everything, but it's tough. I did call a doctor a couple years ago about some of the moles I was worried about, and he said, they might be cancer, but you're not the kind of guy that we save. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, I've seen your podcasts. This was before this one. I had other podcasts. He said, I've seen your podcast and some of the sketches you're doing, and I looked up your tape online, and it's a lot of money and time and hard work that goes into saving somebody's life. And you're not really the one that we're going to put a lot into. And I was like, well, I'm young. Isn't that usually kind of the people that you would save a young person from? Like, I would understand maybe if somebody's like 86 and they're like going to die in 2 months, then maybe you wouldn't totally try and save them. But like even me, and he paused and he said, even you. And he said, did you just put a Zyn in your mouth? And I said, yeah. And he said, see, that's why. It's like, why are you even, what's the nicotine all about? And I go, well, I like it. It's actually a neuro enhancer. it helps your brain a little bit more. And he said, is that true? And I go, I heard Andrew Huberman, he's a doctor that likes to do podcasts, and he said that. And he goes, do you know that guy's a convicted felon in 19 states? And I said, really? And he said, no, I made that up. And I said, okay. And he said, do you want to hear something really interesting? And I said, yeah. And he goes, I don't exist, actually. I'm a made-up doctor that you started talking about on your podcast because you were just sort of trying to fill some time with a bit. And I said, trying to fill time when we're still only 10 minutes into the podcast? And he goes, yeah, you're not really that good at it, but you do it, and I don't know why. What's good about doing a podcast by yourself is that you kind of get treated like a guy in a wheelchair who plays in a basketball league, where nobody really cares if you're good at it, but they just think it's awesome you do it. They're like, that's really hard. Because podcasts are a lot more fun when somebody else is responding to the things you're saying. Sometimes I come in with funny ideas to this podcast, and then I say them, and then it's gone. There's no other person to be like, wait, what? Here's my opinion on that. It's just me, and I say something that I think is funny. And then I hope that, that you've made it to even this long in the episode. I could probably stop kind of breaking the fourth wall every single episode. But I think on a solo podcast, there's an extent to which I just, we're just gabbing, just talking, I don't know. Do I care about anything in the news? I don't know. I'm waiting for a news story that really excites me. And they don't touch me. Nothing lasts anymore. Cocaine in the White House. We should care about that for longer than we did, right? Not even in is this okay for our country, but we should. Is Joe Biden doing cocaine? That would be great for us. Would anyone actually be upset if Joe Biden was doing cocaine? I feel like both sides would be like, he's moving slow. So if that's going to pick up the pace a little, honestly, who would be mad? Because even if you don't support Joe Biden, he is the president. So you should want him to do the best he can, because the best he can would be the best for the country. So it's like, if he's doing cocaine, we should all be kind of happy for him. Because he's also at the age that is the same age that everybody says when they would try heroin. You know how everybody's like, I would try heroin when I'm 86. Or I would do cocaine when I'm 86, because then fuck it, it doesn't matter. Maybe that's why the news story didn't last for that long, is he's so old that people are like, well, even if he is that bad? Is anything bad at this age? Besides hurting other people, anything he's doing just on his own, that has to be fine, right? I don't know. Joe Biden should do a press conference where he goes up with 3 balloons full of nitrous and huffs them. I would like that. If he went on stage, he was like, the Ford F-150, and we're gonna turn around the tides of this nation. I think everybody would feel really energized by that. They'd be like, something's happening in this country, and I don't know what it is, and what it is ain't exactly clear, but something is happening here. And I think it would kind of reinvigorate everybody. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe if Joe Biden, if he did nitrous on stage, or maybe if Joe Biden did a mass shooting, just something to kind of make everybody go, huh, that is interesting. That's very interesting to me. If one of our own presidents, especially a Democrat, was imprisoned for killing 15 people at his own rally, I think a conversation could begin. I don't know about what. I don't think it would bring us together, but I think it would be a little shock to the system. Because the normal mass shootings, I guess, are not enough to get us to deal with a gun problem. So maybe if Joe Biden did 3 nitrous balloons in front of everybody and then pulled out an Uzi and just started shooting wildly into a crowd of his own supporters, people might start going, this is really interesting. There would be some think pieces on it. I think it would make everybody slow down. I think we might be able to get a woman in office for once, which could be really good for our country. I think there's a lot of interesting things that could come of that. Because the normal president role is not really, I don't know, does it work anymore? You know what I mean? I couldn't really tell you a single thing Joe Biden's done. Because even when he says he does stuff, I'm told by people on Twitter that he's actually not doing that. He'll go and he'll be like, student loan debt's going to be forgiven. And then some guy quote tweets it, and it's like, he signed a bill yesterday that said he's not going to do that. And I'm like, huh. Well, okay. I don't know what to believe, you know? I don't know. Do the president's actions affect anybody anymore? Could he be a cocaine addict, and would it change? Because Trump, I think, was doing a lot of Adderall, which is almost like meth. So we kind of had a meth head in the White House for a little bit, which is similar to Nazi Germany. Hitler loved meth. Did that, I don't know. Does anything change anymore? I don't know. I don't know. I feel just absolutely terrible. So I thought it'd be great to just come on and record the pod, talk about the president. Gotta talk about the president. I don't know. Last week we had Dan on. That was fun. The week before that, I talked mostly about a transphobic woman I met, and I got more views on that episode than any episode I have ever put out. And I don't know who the people are that watched it. And I almost feel like somehow she found it and it got passed around conservative circles. But I don't think that's the case because nobody commented. And conservatives like to comment. They really like to come in and share their opinions on things that don't actually affect them. That's what keeps a lot of people. I think it's weird. Big stuff is not really that entertaining to anybody. Nobody really cares about the cocaine in the White House. But then you will talk to a conservative and they'll be like, did you hear a boy in Peoria, Illinois put a dress on a G.I. Joe? And I'm like, no, how did you hear about that? Like, how are you even getting this information? And they're like, Facebook, like a guy. And then like, leftists will be like, did you hear that a bar in Missouri put up a sign that said only guys can go in this bathroom? And I'm like, no, how did you hear about that? And then they're like, CNN actually. And you're like, well, that's odd. Like, I mean, I feel that's definitely a bad thing. It's odd that made the news, so I think the small stuff has really overtaken it, Then there's just always a new guy on Twitter every month that's like Cheese Dad, and then 2 days later they're like Cheese Dad was at January 6th, and you're like, damn, he got famous just for buying too many wheels of cheese, and his wife tweeted about him. But now we just found out that he helped stage an insurrection in the United States. That's pretty interesting, and that's more gripping than cocaine in the White House, and I think that's just kind of where we're at. I think it's just kind of how it's going to be for a long time. But I don't know. Political commentary to me is almost like poker. Sometimes I play it with my friends. I realize very quickly I'm bored and I'm too stupid to really have any aptitude in the field at all. You know what I mean? It's weird. I feel like all of us nowadays, about every 6 months, for one day, go, I'm going to learn about everything going on. And then you look up something for 10 minutes, and then a guy says a word like filibuster, and then you go, you know what? I don't care. I remember now why I don't know anything. It's because this is not of grand interest to me. I'm going to hop back out again. I'm going to wonder what Madonna is up to, because that is more palatable to me. I don't know. People's priorities are weird to me. People care about trans people swimming, which to me, a bigger issue is the fact that I walked into a Starbucks yesterday and there were no chairs in the Starbucks. And there were people in the Starbucks standing, drinking the coffee as if the no chairs was normal. People are worried about trans people swimming. Meanwhile, I'm tipping every time I buy anything, and I'm not being given chairs. The latter, to me, affects me. The other thing is a sport that I don't even care about. But the chairs I care about. We're calling everything an epidemic in this country. I'd like to throw my hat in the ring to say that there is a epidemic of things that changed during COVID that have not come back for reasons that have yet to be explained to me. I got the vaccines. I thought we should have quarantined for longer. I'm on all that. I'm on that train. That being said, I think we can put the chairs back in the Starbucks. I understand not everybody has to go into an office. That's a good thing we learned during the pandemic. People do need to sit down, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, listen, I know that we kind of cut the fat on a lot of stuff, but water costs money now, and I can't sit down. So what are we going to do? I got to sit down. It's crazy for Starbucks to take out chairs because that is about 75% of their appeal. Is Starbucks. You can come in here and you can sit down. And I know a lot of you are listening to this, the millions that are listening. A lot of you are saying, I went to a Starbucks the other day and it had chairs. And that's the craziest part, is that I know that. It's just this one Starbucks in July of 2023 is still no chairs. And I bet if you ask them, they'd be like, you're so, like they would they would think that you're an asshole. But there's no chairs. And nobody bags my groceries. Why is every time I go to the market, I have to pay and also start bagging? And I don't know how to bag stuff. I'm coming home with a lot of cracked eggs, I want someone to bag the stuff because then that person has money. Because all these baggers have no money and they're just standing in Starbucks tipping 25% for a service that they're not really clear on either. The coffee was already made. They just walked back and got it. They gave it to me. I think that's just the paycheck that they're earning, not why am I tipping you? I am tipping you. I'm tipping. I'm still tipping. But I haven't known why I've tipped in the last 2 years. I know why I tip at restaurants, but I'm tipping other places that are I'm getting very confused. It's like, did you make this croissant? Or why? You just gave it to me? I'm not even at a table because I can't, because there's no chair to sit down. You couldn't even serve me if you wanted to. You don't have chairs. But there's people worried about trans swimmers, and those people haven't met a trans person. But they're more worried about that. Trans fear is one of the most ludicrous fears I've ever heard. Because they always like stats and numbers and stuff. I looked it up. Highest estimated trans population is around 0.6% of the entire Earth. And with people in the closet and stuff, maybe you could bump that up to 0.8, maybe even a full percent. Most likely you're hovering around 0.1 to 0.6. So I looked up the top. 0.6 of the world's population is about 48 million people, which is roughly the population of Spain. Would these same conservatives who are afraid of trans people be afraid if Spain wanted to wage war on the world? No. So if you're not afraid of Spain, if Spain is not what you're worried about, why are you so worried about this other group of people? Because if Spain tried to mount a world war, they would be crushed by the armed forces of the United States. And if trans people decided to all take up arms and wage a world war, I don't think they would be able to beat the U.S. armed forces. So if the fear of attack and world takeover is present, then why are we not doing the math on the fact that that's not something we have to worry about? Also, that being said, based on the trans friends that I have, they don't have an intention of mounting a world war. Most of them want to have a house and somebody to love, which is also the case with every human on Earth. So I don't know, I don't get the fear, because I've never met a conservative afraid of Spain, but I've met a lot that are afraid of trans people, and they haven't even met a trans person. Which is where the fear comes from, because if they met a trans person, they'd be like, oh, well, you just like Pokemon Go, and you have a pretty similar job to mine, so I don't really know what this whole fight is about. I don't really know what have I been worried about this entire time. You seem like a nice person. You know, I don't get it. Trans sports? The answer is clear. No more gendered sports. Let's stop with the gendered sports. No more W anything. It's rude to those competitors. There's the NBA, and all women are now eligible to be in the NBA, as I think should be the plan. And from the moment they're born, they're given the same opportunities that LeBron James was given. And if they are so talented and so inclined to compete on the same level, then they will. And then we don't have to have this weird gray area debate about women's sports versus men's sports and the stats that go along with it. Because I remember seeing somebody, and they were like, this woman in the WNBA, she has great stats, but she doesn't get the kind of attention that LeBron James gets. And it's like, well, because LeBron James had to compete against Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade and Kobe Bryant and a lot of different people. So the competition was healthier. So I say, why don't we take that same lady from the WNBA, who's obviously a good basketball player. She's 0.0001% of basketball players in the world. She's the best. She's one of the best. Throw them in with the fellas. And to the people that say, well, that's not fair, they would get crushed, I don't know. I think that's sexist. Do you think every single woman in the world is not capable of ever competing in the NBA? I don't see how that's possible. It's 4 billion. You're telling me half the world's population is women, roughly. So you're telling me 4 billion out of 4 billion, you think none of them could score 15 in an NBA game? That sounds very sexist to me. Can we just give it a shot? Because I think if you get rid of gendered sports and everybody is in the same league and everybody is given the same opportunities, starting off, there's going to be a major issue where tons of teams are not going to draft women. They're just not. They're going to be sexist about it. They're going to assume that they will not be able to play. I think after 20 to 50 years, female athletes are going to fundamentally change. And all of a sudden, certain roles in certain sports will be roles that will be filled by women. And they're going to go, oh, wait, no. Women are actually really good defensive backs. We just had no idea. They're quick. They're nimble. They're fast. That's what we need. They can jump. You know what I mean? But there's no opportunity for that to ever happen. You put them in the fire, you think half of the world's population is not going to be strong enough to come out and produce at least a couple people a year that are going to fucking play? And then eventually, I think we get to a point where everybody is where sports is much more interesting, where different roles are being filled by different people, and the game is played differently. And it's not a softer game. It's a real game. It's I'm not saying make the NBA easier. I'm saying keep it the way it is, but allow women the option. Because I don't like hearing that the WNBA has never made money. Because the fact of the matter is, I don't know if it's ever going to, because of sexism. So if you want to take sexism away, take away sex. Just take it away. It's still going to be there, but we're not going to have an entire league dedicated to the idea of gender. Let's have a league dedicated to basketball where all genders are allowed. And athletes and many people would say this is a really stupid idea. But I want to live in a world where everybody can be proud of their achievements and does not have to justify them. Because it makes me sad when people go, well, why is this basketball player not being talked about the way LeBron is being talked about? And it's like, well, because not enough people are watching it, because the competition is less, because it's easier to get into that league, so put everybody in the same thing, and then these stats can really not be debated because they're all from the same league with the same competition, and everybody has the same opportunities. I mean, you're going to sit here and tell me that Brittany Griner could not contribute to an NBA team? You're out of your mind. She's 7 feet tall. She trains and practices every day. She's a world-class athlete. At the very least, she couldn't fucking be a Steve Kerr and help lead a team to a championship, even if she's not a star. I think she could be a star, but even if she's not, she couldn't fucking... Women can't pass? What are you talking about? The WNBA is full of people with better fundamentals than many people in the NBA. Because it's a different style of play. Men are on the court just fucking running and gunning, trying to get breakaways, trying to dunk, trying to look crazy, trying to look cool, trying to fuck. Meanwhile, you watch the WNBA, they're running plays like a motherfucker. Teamwork, cooperation, passing. You don't want that in the NBA? You don't want more of that? You don't want players that understand that at a level that is different than men? I do. That's the most interesting game I can imagine. Introducing new member of the Ottawa Senators, Kimberly Raskub. She's in there getting in fistfights with men. It's fun. We're all coming together. That's totally my thought. I don't know. Let's try it out. Let's try living in a world without gender and just sort of see what would happen. Because all of the phobias and everything is coming from this grip on gender and understanding that we have. That if we let it go, we don't get to see gender anymore. We just get to see people exerting their abilities to the best possible result, which is the essence of sports. But when we divide people, the essence gets gray. If I was a WNBA player, I would want to play in the NBA because as a competitor, I would want to be with the best competition possible. And it's clear that right now the NBA is getting the best competition and the WNBA is not because of sexism. So what are we doing here? Throw everybody in the same box. Ja Morant and Brittany Griner, one-on-one. Britt probably has it, you know what I mean? Ja's over here fucking around with fake guns, getting himself in trouble. Brittany's getting herself in a lot of trouble, too. Okay? Not the best point to make, actually. I felt bad. Her first game back, they didn't sell out the stadium. The coach was really upset. She was like, I really thought people were going to show up and show out. And it sucks because it's like, yeah, none of that whole situation of her being in prison in Russia really made anyone interested in the WNBA. It made people interested in Brittany Griner and the story. But the stadium didn't sell out because I don't think anybody looked up what her first game back was going to be. I think WNBA fans did. And I don't like that part either, that I don't think there are people that go to WNBA games are fans of the WNBA. They're not fans of basketball as a whole. Otherwise, they would go to the main league. But these women who are devoting their entire life to something like this deserve the same stage if they are good enough to make it into the league. And I think in the WNBA, there are probably, and this is a low estimate, I want to be very, there's a low estimate, there are probably 10 women in the WNBA that could easily contribute to an NBA team. You're going to sit here and tell me that the Sacramento Kings couldn't afford somebody with good fundamentals? When was the last time you heard about the Sacramento Kings doing anything? You've probably heard more about Brittany Griner than you have the Sacramento Kings, which shows me that they're not that entertaining of a team either. Let's get some people who know how to pass on the team. Let's get some people who are not selfish showboating men. Let's get some women in there who have a thought of community, who have a thought of helping each other out. I don't know. There are some essential differences between men and women, but we don't get to see them because they get so overshadowed by the gender roles that were put in that the actual essence and honest part, the truth of people is not being seen because it's being clobbered over by gender roles, and it's exhausting for people who are competitors, who want to do well, who want to do their job, I don't know. I think it's a worthwhile venture. I think it's something that would be very interesting to see, There are certain sports where it's dicey, Should UFC be fully integrated? I say yes. Do I think it's a great idea? No. But it's the essential truth of let's put everybody together and let's see what happens. I don't know. I want to try it out. I would like to try it out. But, that's why I'm not. It's even like running, even cross country. When I did cross country in high school, men and women, we're not even touching each other. We're just running next to each other. And they're like, well, women can't be in the same race. That's crazy. Do you know how many women in high school were faster than me? There were like 10 women on my team alone that were faster than me, and yet they had to run in a separate race. There are people that could beat me, that got college scholarships, that were not allowed to compete against me because it was deemed unfair. Explain to me how we're being realistic. Because that's what, as people were like, well, no, that's not realistic to have men and women compete against each other. Well, is it realistic to have fucking Becky, who's running 2 minutes faster, 2 whole minutes faster than me, in a different race because apparently it would be unfair if we raced each other? It seems like we are building a world in our heads and exerting it upon the real world. That's what it seems like to me. 1 second. Just had to make sure this was being filmed. I am not editing that out because you are a part of the ride. But I don't know. I guess it's something I've been thinking about lately because of that conversation with the transphobic woman. I wouldn't say gender comes into my mind very often. I guess it does sort of as a background thing sometimes, but some people it's like it's all they think about. So I don't know. I just let's stop the fights and just give people, stop. Let's end it. Everybody, same opportunity. What can we do with the opportunity? Because it's weird because go look, if you think that right now what we have set up is fair, Go look at the locker room of a D1 college team for women versus a D1 college team of any sport for men. It's insane. Women's locker rooms at the D1 level look like a public park bathroom. They give them no resources. They don't have ice baths and physical therapists, whatever. They don't have all the same stuff. Some of them do if they have enough money, maybe, but it's never as much as the men because it's where the money's going. So if they all have the same opportunities, those women are going to become better competitors because more opportunities of excelling themselves are going to be afforded to them. And so all these arguments of, oh, women aren't as good as men, it's, well, I don't think we can even begin to have that argument until they are given the tools to be the best they can be, which because of this gender discrimination, they have not been given. Do you think a D1 college athlete who's a woman is really going to get the same attention as a D1 college athlete that's a man? Never. And people still have the gall to say that they're just not good enough to compete with the men? Well, give a man all the same tools as a woman is given and see how good he is compared to a man who's given all the same tools a man is given. The guy that is given the woman's lot is going to perform worse because he doesn't have the physical training, the stuff like that, like the tools. So many smart, skilled, strong, athletic women that are being held back by the belief that they wouldn't stand a chance against the men. And it's really weird and disgusting to me. It's really weird and disgusting, and I wish we wouldn't do it, But I don't know. You can't, people create the world, but that world is created in their head before it's exerted. And that fucks everything up. It's really hard to live in an actual world nowadays because of all the systems and the constructs that have been created that have brought us to where we are. And there's a lot of great things that have been invented. This mic, good stuff, But gendered sports, I think, are starting to seem a little silly. I think that's the end of this argument. I don't know if it'll ever happen in this country. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime. But the answer to me seems clear. Everybody's got to play in the same league. Let's try it out. You think a woman couldn't kick a 50-yard field goal? You're out of your goddamn mind. Think they can't thread the needle? You're out of your goddamn mind, okay? It's stupid. It's dumb. It's dumb. How much money do I have to just start an integrated league? You know what I mean? Like, how does that start? I think you have to just start another league. I think it'd be very hard for the NFL to do it. But maybe the Saudis are getting into sports. They have a football club. I think they have their own league, actually, a Saudi league. Soccer, football, soccer, whatever you call it. They also have a golf league, which was hated by the PGA and many golfers in the PGA. They said it was an affront to the game. They said they were only in it to distract from their human rights violations. Why do you think the NFL exists? Do you think it's a coincidence that the NFL and the armed forces seem to do a lot of promo together? It's pretty clear that we use sports to cover up the terrible things in our country. I think it's made most clear by the career of Colin Kaepernick, who was one of the best quarterbacks. He brought them to a Super Bowl. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And the reason he got kicked out of the NFL is that he, as an athlete in a league meant to distract from human rights violations, mentioned some of those human rights violations. And it was more worth it to them to kick him out of the league and never let him play football again than it was to let him play football and say truths about our nation. It's pretty clear where the priorities of the NFL and the United States as a whole exist when we are sacrificing talent and excelling the game in favor of continuing to hide things that are happening on a daily basis in our country. The NFL is not dedicated to the best sports that can be played. It is dedicated to the best sports that can be played by people who are not going to cause a ruckus and talk about the fact that there are civilians dying every single day in the hands of people meant to protect us. And people are mad at the Saudis. Oh no, they do bad stuff too, and now they have a golf league. Yeah, because the PGA was always a really great place full of awesome people always doing the right thing. You know that nonprofit that somehow the people that own it have millions and millions of dollars? They've always been good. They're not like the Saudis. Come on. We're just better at sports washing. That's what they call it when you try and distract from human rights violations with sports. It's sports washing. American football was invented 4 years after the end of the Civil War. Do you think that's a coincidence? No. Some great mind in our country was like, all right, we got to get people's mind off of what just happened. No. Those aren't ex-treasonous Confederate soldiers who tried to break up our nation just to keep owning slaves. No. Those are the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's what's happening. And it's not good on either side. But shitting on the Saudis for getting in on it is the most hypocritical thing I have seen any of these Americans do. How do you, as an American journalist, have the fucking gall to shit on the players and the organizers of a league started by the Saudi government? You are a journalist who went to journalism school to get into sports journalism, and you live in America, a country built on the backs of dead people who don't look like me. You live in this country. You profit off of the death. You profit off of that blood every day you're alive. Every golf journalist family probably owns slaves, and you have the gall to say that what the Saudi government is doing is abhorrent because they want to golf too? Fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck Rory McIlroy, absolute washed-up sham loser trying to defend the honor of the PGA. Yeah, Rory? Yeah? Shut the fuck up. Hey, Rory, if what the Saudis are doing is so terrible because they're just trying to cover up human rights violations, what do you do for the world? You go out on fields of grass that take up so much water while we're in droughts across the entire world, and you play a game to make millions of dollars while people cheer from you. And you have the gall to act like you are part of a good, pure thing. There's nothing pure about golf. That grass doesn't grow naturally. They grew it for you to go out and play a game, and you're mad because the Saudis want to make money off the same game. And what did the Saudis do? They started a golf league that was faster, more entertaining, and paid golfers so much more money than has ever been paid to golfers before. That gave generational wealth to guys who never would have been able to find it in the PGA, because the PGA would still subscribe to the thing of like, well, only a few people get to make a bunch of money, even though we have all the money in the world. And the Saudis did something that the PGA could have done the entire time, and they tried to bitch and moan and shut it down until finally they are now one league. Oh, look at that. It turns out the PGA just liked money too, and all it took was an offer, and now you're literally merged. Oh no, they're all pieces of shit. Oh wait, how much money are you going to give us? Okay, well, we're going to give a big fuck you to Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, and we're actually going to merge with the league that they were so angry about. And even though they stood by us and turned down billion-dollar deals, we're just going to merge with them anyway, and you never even got to make money for it. Come on. What are we doing? Saudi Arabia and the United States are both absolute savage warmongers that kill journalists every goddamn day. So let's play some football. You know what I mean? I mean, what are we mad about? Come on. Clintons are out here with tons of journalist friends who seem to all have depression and kill themselves. And yet every day we wake up on Sunday and we watch fighter jets fly over a stadium, and then we play a game and we forget about it, and then the Saudis do the same thing and we call them evil. And I think that's why. I think that's why so many people thought it was evil, because deep in their mind they knew that it is what we as white people in other first world countries have been doing the entire time. And for the Saudis to do the same thing put a mirror on them that they could truly not handle. They could not handle the fact that they were seeing what they were doing done by another country. And because they weren't white people, they thought it was fucked up. I don't care that Saudi Arabia had a hand in 9/11, because America had a hand in 9/11, okay? Huh? Buddy? Getting mad at the Saudi government. It's one of the most racist, morally repugnant, virtue-signaling, fake arguments I've ever heard in my entire life. Golf journalists, all of a sudden, are mad about the Saudi involvement in 9/11. And yet don't want to look at the facts that, old Georgie Bush probably signed off on the whole operation. You know what I mean? While Tiger was in his prime. That wasn't when he was in his prime, no. But, you know what I mean. I don't know, man. So I'm thinking, I got on this because I think the Saudis should start in a gender-inclusive sports league. I think they've already got golf. They've got soccer. I think they should get into basketball. And they should start a league where men, women, and anybody of any gender, even if they don't have a gender, can play in the league. And that should be allowed. That should be fully allowed. And I think the Saudis are the ones to start it. And also, it'd be a really interesting turn from people calling them sports washers and this and that if they started a league that was just fully integrated. That's what people would talk about. And I'd love to see it. Folks, I would love to see it. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Because as far as I know, the Saudis are not known for being gender inclusive. They are not known for necessarily being tolerant of all walks of life. Saudi Arabia is not a refuge of queer love. Usually where queer refugees come from. So it's probably not going to be the place. But I don't know. Luxembourg, richest country in the world, small country. They got some money. Start a golf league. You know what I mean? Let's get it going. I want to see it. I want to hear it. I don't know. Whatever. You gotta fucking, it's whatever. This podcast sucks. I'm gonna die in 3 days. Who gives a fuck, But, if you tuned in, hey, that's nice of you. Thanks for doing it. Keep doing it. I love you so much, and I will see you next week.